Hi, I'm Nikki and I'm here at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium with the Weather Channel and Crazimals, and we are in front of the polar bear habitat. So behind me you see Anana and her little girl cub. Anana is a first-time mom. She's 9 years old, and her cub is currently being named. You can go to the columbuszoo.org/name the animal, name the cub, sorry, and participate in our naming contest. There are 4 names, and I won't tell you which one is my favorite, but you can go and vote for which one is your favorite. So behind me are polar bears, and polar bears are becoming more endangered in their native ranges due to climate change. As you can see, it's a beautiful day here in central Ohio where it is rainy and 58, but up in the Arctic it is getting warmer earlier every year, and so the sea ice is not getting as large as it normally would, and it's receding quicker than it normally would. And sea ice is really critical for polar bears to hunt on. They hunt ring seals. They really enjoy eating the fat from the seals, and that's their main food source. So if they don't have ice, they can't hunt, and then there are no bears. So what we do here at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium is support different research projects in the polar bears' native ranges in order to promote their conservation. We're participating in a maternal den study so we can learn what polar bears actually do in dens. We had cameras, so I have watched this cub since the day she was born. When she came out, she was just 1 pound. So if you think about what a box of butter looks like that you buy at the store, that's how big this cub was. She is now 83 pounds. And the reason that she is so large is because a polar bear's milk is about 30% fat, which is really high. For humans, we only need about 3% fat to grow at the rate that we do. But these cubs have to get big, and have to get big quick. Because when they come out of their dens in March and April, as our cub did, they need to be able to follow mom as she gets back out and looks for some dinner, because she hasn't eaten in about 3 months. We helped with Anana, a polar bear, after they become pregnant. Breeding season is in January, February, March. During the summer, they need to gain about 200 pounds, which is what Anana gained, which is quite the fun summer diet. It's kind of the opposite of what all of us are on, trying to get our beach bodies ready. She's trying to get her mom bod ready for cub gestation. So she gained about 200 pounds, and then she's got to find a really nice, secure place to den, which she had here at our facility. And so once they give birth to the cub, they stay in the den there for about 10 to 12 weeks, just nursing that cub and allowing it to get bigger and stronger. The cub's eyes open about 30 days in or so. And when they emerged, she was about 20 pounds. So that was in early March. And now she is up over 83 pounds now. So she's getting big quick. She's got to be able to follow mom. She's going to stay with mom for about 2 years or so. And then she'll be off on her own. And polar bears are typically solitary. They will come together around a common food source if there's a large one out there, but they are typically going to be off on their own, hunting and living in the very harsh Arctic wilderness. So for now, all she has to worry about is running around and diving in the water and playing. The pool you see behind me is salt water, so they get to swim in 167,000 gallons of salt water every day, and we have steelhead trout in there. Now, polar bears don't typically hunt fish in the Arctic. Ring seals are their main food supply, but they can eat these fish if they catch them. I want to thank you all for joining me here. My name is Nikki Smith. I am an assistant curator here at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium, and we are live at the polar bear habitat. I don't think there's any bears behind me right now, but they are off running around and exploring this 1-acre habitat behind me. You're live with the Weather Channel and Crazimals. Currently, the cub out with Anana is a female, and we have a naming contest going on. If you'd like to participate, today is the last day. So hop on to columbuszoo.org/name the cub. We have 4 really awesome names for you to choose from, and we'd love for you to participate in the voting. We're going to announce the winner of the naming contest on Mother's Day. So you have to check back and see what her name is.
Thomas is asking, where's the ice? Can you talk a little bit about their habitat?
So we're in central Ohio, so we do have ice, but it's usually in the winter. Things that we do here for the polar bears, though, this pool behind me is chilled. So right now it's about 55 degrees. It's usually between 45 and 60 degrees, depending on the season. We also have bagged ice that we bring out for the bears that they love to roll in and play in. We'll do things like we freeze giant ice blocks with food in it, or a little bit of juice, or another toy. And this is really fun enrichment for our animals that they get to play in and roll on and cool off on. Our building is also air conditioned, so in the hot days of summer, they can come in and cool off if they need to. There's an arch that's in the habitat that we have a cool mist spray come out of. So we provide a lot of different ways for our polar bears to cool off. There's sand pits and mulch pits behind me. And once they scrape off that top layer, it's nice and cool underneath. Like when you're at the beach and you stick your feet under the sand and it's nice and cool under there. That's kind of what we have here for them as well. I don't know where they went. They're running around having fun, I guess.
We're on the other side of the boat.
Ah.
Folks are telling us how can we name the cub? What kind of names?
If you go to the columbuszoo.org/name the cub, we have 4 really great names. One is Amelia Gray, and that is because our little cub here is the first cub for Anana, and she's kind of exploring the world on her own. And she also has a really cool gray spot on the side of her neck that we had never seen in any of our polar bears before. Another name is Denali, and that is for the mountain range in Alaska. Another name is Elizabeth, which is an Inuit word that is a derivative of Elizabeth. And the 4th name is, remind me, Shirley. Vieta, which means gray in Russian. So we have 4 really great names, and they all kind of mean something to us with this cub. So pick your favorite. I know I have my favorite, but go on to columbuszoo.org/name the cub and pick your favorite. Today's the last day for voting, so we'd really love everyone to get a chance to participate. So we also have, when Anana's not out here on the habitat, we have Aurora, and Aurora has twin cubs. And you all may remember Nora from last year. Nora was a daughter of Aurora's, and now this year Aurora's had twins. So the twin cubs are a little boy and a little girl, and they are 85 and 75 pounds. And we're gonna walk this way and check them out. So this habitat is over an acre. And as you can see, we have really big deadfall trees for them to climb on and roll around on and play in. And there is grass, and there's a large area of river rocks to dig in, and mulch and sand. There's a lot of really fun places for them to explore. They haven't jumped in the water yet today, and we do kind of find that with our polar bears. When it's a little chillier and it's not really sunny and warm, they don't get in the water as much. Although this baby is a water baby. She loves to jump in the pool. She loves to swim. She's learning how to dive. So we found that with Nora as well. It's been really interesting for all of us to see the similarities and the differences between these cubs and our Nora from last year. Aurora's twins are getting big and getting strong, just like this cub is. And they will stay with their mom for about 2 years, and that is what they would normally do in their native ranges in the Arctic. They're eating some grass right now. Polar bears are carnivores. They are typically strict carnivores. They eat seal. They really like the blubber from ringed seals. But when they find other things they'd like to chew on, they will. They'll eat seaweed when they find it. They'll eat grass. Our polar bears here, we give them a couple of different kinds of produce just as enrichment. So we give them melons and we give them tomatoes, and they really like melons a lot.
Can you talk about the polar bear gestation period?
I sure can. Polar bear breeding happens in January, February, sometimes into March. And what happens is the egg is fertilized, but it stops developing. And the reason for that is that mom has to make sure that she is in the best physical condition possible to maintain a pregnancy and to have cubs. As I mentioned before, polar bear milk is 33% fat, so mom has to gain a huge amount of weight in order to actually nurse her cubs. Anana here behind me gained over 200 pounds last summer, and it was quite a job to get all that food into her, but we were happy to do it. So once a polar bear gains enough weight that they feel like they feel comfortable, they'll go and they'll dig a den, and they typically dig their dens in the ice, which is another reason why sea ice is so vitally important to polar bears. They really like to dig their dens in ice. So it's a very small area. It's barely big enough for them to fit in and turn around in. And they will dig that ice cave and they will get down in there, and then about 60 days later, you have typically twins. They can have 1, they can have 3, but polar bears almost always have twins. So Anana here did have 2 cubs. Unfortunately, only 1 survived. She's a first-time mom. It's not something that was unexpected. She did show really great maternal care, but sometimes these things happen. This cub behind us is doing great. she's really a pistol. We can't love her any more than we do. She's jumping in the water all the time. She's learning how to dive. She can probably dive about 2 feet now. Polar bears do love to swim. They spend a lot of time in the water. They can't actually hold their breath any longer than you or I can. It's only about a minute, maybe a minute and a half tops. So that is why they need that sea ice in order to hunt the seals. They have to wait for the seals to either come up on the ice or to come up through a breathing hole. There's no chance that they're going to be able to dive and catch a seal underwater. Seals are just too well adapted for swimming for that.
Thomas is asking, does being in a zoo change their hibernation cycle?
Well, Thomas, that's a great question. Polar bears, typically the males, they don't hibernate. They don't get down into an ice cave the way that the females would. They only do it when they're breeding and when they're denning. So other bear species that do slow down and go into a hibernation or a torpor, they do that because there is no food left. So for polar bears, winter is really, that's their time. The sea ice is big and it's thick, and that's when they can really do their best hunting. So they are specifically adapted for that really harsh, cold Arctic climate in a way that other bears really aren't.
Can you talk about the zoo's species survival plan?
I sure can. Our polar bears participate, and it's called the Species Survival Plan. And what that is it's a collaborative breeding program amongst AZA accredited zoos. And what we look at are different genetic factors with the bears. You want to make sure that it's a good match and that we're keeping a stable population here in zoos and aquariums so that hopefully someday if bears were needed to be reintroduced into their native ranges, we would have a really good genetically healthy population in order to help with that.
Karen is asking, where are the polar bears from?
Karen, that's a great question. This little girl right here was born right here at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. She was one of only 3 cubs that are alive in North America this year. There were only 4 born, and they were all born here. Anana and her sister Aurora were born at the Toledo Zoo, and then they lived for a very short time at the Pittsburgh Zoo before moving here with us in Columbus when our polar bear habitat opened in 2009.
Can you talk a little bit about Anana and Aurora and her cubs?
I sure can. Aurora and her cubs, the twins, were born on November 14th. The cub behind me was born on November 8th. And so on November 14th, she had 2 little cubs. They're both only about 1 pound at birth. So if you think about what a box of butter looks like at the store, that's how big polar bear cubs are. They are very small and very helpless when they are born. Their eyes are closed. They really rely on mom for everything. She's looking for her fans. It's a rainy day here, kiddo. They won't be here quite yet. You see how far she's getting to dive already. They really build up those muscles and start looking for the fish to dive as soon as they can. Aurora's twins kind of alternate in this habitat with their mother. Today it's Anana and her cub, and tomorrow we expect the twins will be out with their mother. And the twins are really great because they spend a lot of time wrestling and playing together, and they are definitely best friends already. You can see we have an underwater viewing area here, and the cub's able to get all the way down to the top of that glass already, so that's about 3 feet. So she is getting more proficient at diving every day. If you look at that fur, it looks like it's white, but I can tell you it's actually clear. Polar bears have black skin, and that helps them absorb the sun's rays and stay warmer. They have a good thick layer of fat to keep them warm, and then that hair is hollow, and that helps insulate them as well. So it looks like they're white. Polar bears are actually clear. So now our cub has a toy in the exhibit. That's one of the many things we provide for them to play with. This toy bounces up and down in the water, and it helps stimulate some of their natural hunting behaviors. Polar bears love to pounce on things. So the fact that this will sink a little bit and then come back up allows this cub to practice her pouncing skills, which is something she would need if she were out hunting seals in the wild. They're excellent swimmers. If you look at their paws have a lot of fur between the toes, and that actually acts like a snowshoe for when they're walking on ice, and it helps provide a good grip and keep their tootsies warm, which is very important if it is like negative 20 degrees outside. Never gets quite that cold here in central Ohio, but we do provide lots of different cooling off opportunities for them. This pool that the cub is swimming in is chilled. We also have a nice air-conditioned building for them to step into whenever they'd like to. You can help name this cub if you go to columbuszoo.org/name-the-cub. We have 4 really great names to choose from. She needs a name. Today is the last day of voting. So hop on there today and join us. We're going to announce the winner of the naming contest on Mother's Day.
How will the twins be named?
The twins are going to be named by staff. So we're doing a fun fundraiser amongst the staff to help name the twins. And North America and Polar Keepers have some input on that as well. And we can kind of give some guidance as to what their personalities are like to help with their naming.
Greg's asking why are the 2 mothers not together? Are they protective or territorial to cohabitate?
Greg, that's a great question. Polar bear moms are typically solitary. So while it would be, very cool if polar bears typically got together and let their cubs play together, it's just not something that really happens. And there's really no wild bears that will let their cubs play together. Cub moms are fiercely protective of them. They've put a lot of time and a lot of energy into this little bundle, and they wouldn't want anything to happen. So polar bear moms typically avoid pretty much running into anyone. They want to keep their cubs safe. So you see this little girl looking up in the air and sniffing. Polar bears can smell you from about a mile away. So as they look up and sniff, and you'll see their mouth open up and their nose flare, that's mom getting a good whiff of what's going on. The wind comes straight up from the parking lot, so I think Anana and the cub are checking out everybody that's coming in to visit the zoo today. She's thinking about it. So she learned how to dive basically on day 1 out here in the exhibit. She'd bite right down on her mom's back and go underwater with her. You can see how fast they can run. It takes some time to get that coordination. Sometimes she still trips over those big old feet. So right now, she is still nursing from her mother, but she also gets meat and fish and something that we call polar bear chow. And that is a specially formulated diet that has all the vitamins and minerals she needs to grow up big and strong like her mom. So right now this cub is about 83 pounds. So she's gaining a couple of pounds a week, and she was 83 pounds on Friday. So it's bigger than that now. Her mother over there is 550